answers. Easter seals today.
Hi, I'm Carol Gault, and thank you for joining us here today on Easter Seals Today. We have Marcie McClure and Charity Grubbs with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about billing services and Medicaid, I believe.
Yes.
And so I'm just going to turn it over to you two and let us talk about what you do there, and just talk about your history at Easter Seals and share your job duties, and let's just start off a conversation with that.
Okay.
So, you want to start, Charity?
Sure. I'm Charity Grubbs. I've been employed with Easter Seals for about 6 years now. I originally started in the administrative office and then transferred over to adult services. And now I am doing all the billing for all of our Medicaid services, also the employment services, and that's about it.
I've been with Easter Seals for 12 years. I began as a manager for the Adult Day Training Program, and now I'm the manager for the Community Living Supports Program.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the available funding that people often are seeking when they come looking for services at Easter Seals. And I brought my little cheat sheet here because there are several waivers and several types of funding, and when I first read through it, it seems so confusing. And I'm sure unless you're experts like you, to the layperson like me just coming in, it seems very confusing. So would you like to just share some of the waivers and like the Michelle P. waiver and all those kinds of things? We've talked about them previously in different episodes, but can you just run down the list and each one take a part, and let's talk about those for just a little bit.
Sure, I'll discuss. We've got 3 Medicaid waivers, and as an option for funding, the Supports for Community Living waiver. It has been around for a long time. When I started 12 years ago, we had 1 individual receiving funding on that. In 2002, there was 4 individuals in the state of Kentucky that, was not satisfied. They felt like state was not providing adequate services because of the long waiting list to get on the Supports for Community Living waiver. So they filed a suit, which ended up becoming a class action suit. And it was settled in 2006, and then the Michelle P. waiver was created from that, so that there's not a waiting list currently for services. The difference between the Supports for Community Living waiver and the Michelle P. is the SCL waiver, as we call it, has a residential component. The Michelle P. waiver, you're limited to 40 hours a week, so you can get some services which are very beneficial, but it's not near as costly as the Supports for Community Living waiver with a residential component involved.
And what about a home and community-based waiver?
That's probably the least known waiver. It's confusing for some people. It was created for elderly individuals and individuals with disabilities that otherwise would be put into a nursing home. So this waiver allows them to stay at home with their families, be cared for at nights and on the weekends, and then come in for the adult day health care during the day. It does have other components. It's provided by a home health agency. So if someone chooses to stay in their home and have the home and community-based waiver, they could actually stay in their home during the day and have home health come in and provide services for them, or they could choose to come into an adult day health care and receive services during the day. But it's an option for families. It's really great for families that are caring for aging parents that do not want them to go into a nursing home yet. They want to be able to still keep them at home. It allows them to go to work, allows the families to work during the day and have some place for their parent or loved one to go while they're at work. So it pays for adult day health care. And it's different somewhat from the Michelle P. waiver and the SCL waiver in that it provides meals for the individual. So they would receive breakfast, lunch, and a snack while they're in the adult day health care. And that's something different that's not included in any of the other waivers.
All right, okay. And so how would someone apply for a waiver? How would you start this process from the very beginning? Let's just say that my mother was aging and I had parents that were in that situation. How would I start that process from the very beginning?
Normally when someone calls and explains their situation, if it's like you said, if it was a parent that they're concerned about and they're looking for services, we try to listen to their story and find which waiver is best for them. In that case, it would be probably the home and community-based waiver. In order to apply for that waiver, they have to go through a home health agency and have an assessment done. It does require a physician's orders and a physician's statement saying that without these services, they would be put into a nursing home, that's their next step without some kind of intervention through the adult day health care or home health agency. So home health would start the process, they would do the assessment. We can provide help with contacting a home health agency to get the ball rolling. They would also, of course, need to apply for Medicaid, and that's part of this process. And any of the waivers is going through the Medicaid office. Some people that contact us already have Medicaid. That's great because that's one less step they're going to have to go through, and it makes it go so much faster. But the process for the home and community-based waiver does not take very long. Most people, once they contact us and then they get in touch with the home health agency, usually within, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks, we can have them into the center and receiving services.
And the same thing's true, for instance, with Michelle P. waiver.
The Supports for Community Living waiver, it requires an application to be completed, and you can call us at the center and we can get you a copy of the application and help you complete that, and then we turn it into the state level. You'll be put on the waiting list, and when funding becomes available, they'll notify you to get that started. In the meantime, most people are on the waiting list and receiving Michelle P. services.
Okay.
The Michelle P. Waiver, you have to call your local comprehensive care center, which for us is Four Rivers Behavioral Health, and you specifically ask for a Michelle P. waiver assessment. You ask for Sharon Jones there, and her number is 442-5088. And if you need assistance with that, you can feel free to call us too, and we can help with that.
And you're there to help guide people through that, whether it's a child, an aging parent. It doesn't, whatever services they need, that's part of what Easter Seals provides, is to help people guide them through that, correct?
Yes. We get many phone calls with families that are just looking for help. They don't really know where to begin. And even if we don't provide the service that's right for them, we'll still try to put them in contact with the right people so that they can get started at some level with services.
Okay, and I think we touched on this a little bit, but just to make sure it's clear, you do have to have Medicaid to be able to have these waivers? You do, and I think for the home and community-based waiver, because it's designed for the elderly, that's the stumbling block for some people, because at that point in their life, they usually have so many assets that they're not going to be able to get Medicaid, and so you really have to think things out prior to the point where you're ready for services and have a plan as to what you're going to do with your assets, so that when you're at the point where you need Medicaid, those are not, they're not in your name, and so there are plans that you can get in touch with lawyers and try to start that process before you actually need to start using your assets. But as far as getting Medicaid, you would contact your local Department for Community-Based Services. For residents of McCracken County, that's in the HIP building there on Jackson Street. And whoever's helping you with your waiver, whichever waiver it may be, they can help you with that process also, whether it be the home health agency or a case manager if you have Michelle P. or SCL. So when you go to the Medicaid office, they're going to ask you to bring your Social Security number, information on your income, your bank statements, and things like that, and then they'll be able to tell you whether or not you qualify. There is a $2,000 limit for assets, so that's something for people to keep in mind, that's the limit as far as what you can have in your name. That's good information to have. Do you have anything that you would like to add to that, Marcie?
No, some people will apply for Medicaid while they're in the process of, trying to be assessed for the waiver, and that can just help speed up that process. So.
And how long, does it take? How long does it normally take to apply for Medicaid?
Usually you will find out, I would think within a few days of whether or not I think at the actual meeting with the Department for Community-Based Services, they'll tell you at that point whether you qualify, and then just the process of getting it started and receiving the information, I think it takes about a week.
And then, you know, for some caregivers, if they have over $2,000 in assets, they will tell them, they'll send them a letter most of the time and tell them a spend down amount. You know, this is how much you have to spend down in order to qualify for Medicaid.
Okay, all right. Well, that's very helpful to know. I didn't realize that they would walk through that process with you, and I'm sure that's very beneficial for the audience to know.
It is, because it can be very complicated when you're told to contact this person and you have to contact this person. It's great if you can start the waiver process, be assigned someone that's going to be your case manager, and then have them walk you through the Medicaid process too, if you don't already have Medicaid.
Right, right. Okay, so what we talked about are the waivers, and that you really need to be qualified through Medicaid first before you apply the waivers, or go through the application of getting waivers. And then once you're qualified through Medicaid, then they would contact Easter Seals, and then you would help start negotiating the process of which application
services.
and which services. Okay, all right, that's been very beneficial. I think we're going to take a break here in just a minute, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how some of those applications have helped people.
Okay.
And we'll continue our conversation. All right, we will be right back, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next segment. Thank you for joining us here on Easter Seals Today. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Easter Seals Today.
Thank you for coming back with us. We're going to continue our conversation and discuss more about waivers and payment through Medicaid services. We have with us today Marcie McClure and Charity Grubbs, and they both work at Easter Seals, and again, handle Medicaid services, correct?
Yes, I do the billing.
And Marcie?
I help individuals in the community and in their homes through the Community Living Supports Program.
Okay, all right. So we were going to discuss age limits, if there were age limits, if you had to be a certain age, or if you were too old, which I assume you're never too old.
Never too old.
Never too old. But let's just talk about that in general, the age, qualifications, those kinds of things.
It's through birth and up. So as far as a home and community-based waiver, you have to be aged or disabled. With the Michelle P. and the SCL waiver, and SCL standing for Supports for Community Living, it just requires you to meet the regulations for intermediate care facility for persons with mental retardation. So if you have mental retardation or developmental disability, more than likely you'll qualify. They'll come out and do an assessment, and they'll let you know if you qualify for a waiver.
Okay, great.
And we do allow the adult day health care, which is what the home and community-based waiver is designed to pay for. We do have a transition for ages 16 and up. So if you have a 16-year-old, more than likely they're not able to receive services through any of the other waivers. Well, it's certainly not adult day training, which is what we offer. We have a transition where you can, during your high school years, if you're 16, during holidays when schools are closed, and during the summers, we can start transitioning you in so that they'll know what the program's like, so that when they graduate, they'll already be in the system. So we do allow ages 16 and up to attend our adult day health care through the home and community-based waiver. That's the youngest that Easter Seals, as far as the adult day services, would offer for anyone. Normally all the other services, you have to be 18 and up to attend any of our other programs.
Well, just like you mentioned adult daycare, let's talk about some of the specific services that those waivers cover.
Okay.
Let's narrow down each specific waiver and talk about the specific services, if you don't mind. I think that might make it a little more clear.
Right.
Oh, sure. Each waiver has a list of services they provide. With the supports for community living, you know, it's the day programs that you can choose from. We have 2 day programs there at the center, and one is where nurses are on board if you have medical needs, or you know, maybe feeding tubes, or need assistance with going to the bathroom, that type of thing. And then the other side does not require you know, nursing care, so you can choose from one of those day programs there at the center. The waiver also offers supported employment. And this is all with the supports for community living waiver. And the residential services are adult foster care, or you could stay in a staffed residence, which is 3 or more people, other individuals in there. Respite services, which respite is just rest for the caregiver. You know, all 3 waivers are going to offer you the therapies of occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy if needed. And you don't have to pick, you know, you don't have to have a need for all those services. You're going to, you know, pick and choose what your needs are. And behavior services and psychological services for the supports for community living. Now the Michelle P, it does not have the residential component. It will offer respite for caregivers, you know, rest for them or if they're going on vacation, and that is a much needed services for some of our caregivers. It can be tiring to work a job and then come home and meet the needs of your family, especially if they have medical needs, and you know, to provide a good community life for them. You know, our whole goal is to help individuals to be out in the community. So Easter Seal staff can sometimes step in, or other providers, and you know, assist them at going to sports events or shopping or even a vacation. You know, we've usually take an annual trip every year. So respite's important, and then it also offers supported employment. You can choose from either of our day programs, and then the community living supports, which is a one-on-one program. It can be done in the community or in their home, and it may involve cooking, or you know, going to take computer classes, or you know, swimming. We have an individual that takes water aerobic classes, and she has cerebral palsy, so that's very important for her muscles and to help her stay strong. And then we have individuals that we work with on personal hygiene, you know, just anything to help them be more independent.
Right.
We don't want to do things for them. We want to assist them in doing for themselves. So, and then with the home and community-based waiver, there's homemaker service, personal care. They offer respite, and then the adult day health care. So there's several services that are offered through that waiver too. Case management is offered through all of those waivers as well, and that, you know, will help you, you know, weed out what you want and what you need, and that type of thing. And
Charity, you take care of the billing services, so that's something
Yes.
that the family does not have to worry about at all.
And we do offer, we haven't talked about private pay, but we do have a limited amount of private pay that we can accept. We started doing that in the last year or so because we just had some people that fell through the cracks that were not eligible for any of these waivers, and they still wanted to receive services. So we came up with a sliding fee based on income, and I can help people over the phone with that if they can, you know, if they contact me and they're interested in maybe looking into private pay because they've already found out that they're not going to get a waiver. They can contact me, and we can talk about what their income level is, and then I can give them a figure of what it might cost to attend services. And some of the folks that do attend paying private pay, they don't come all day every day. They may just look at the calendar of events and pick out some things during the month that they're really interested in coming and doing, and that they're willing to, you know, pay for a few hours that day to attend. and they're still receiving benefits from the programs, but they're just out of pocket for that.
And that's really good to know, because the services are so great. They cover a spectrum of things, and the skill sets that they teach and offer really appeal to anyone and everyone.
Yes.
So that's really a great thing to know, that if you really don't fit in a certain category, there's a way to work through this.
Yes.
So the key is communication, just getting in contact. Here's our
Yes.
story, and is there a way that we can work through this?
Yes. When folks call us up and inquire about services, we first try to find out which services fit them best, and then try to find a way to pay for those services. And so we look at all the waivers, and then if that does not work out, then we fall back to private pay, and sometimes that's the only option. But we definitely will try to help in any way we can, getting them started on the process of the waivers first. Because we would definitely like to see someone receive all the services rather than just having to pick and choose what they can afford.
Sure, sure. Just quickly, we have just a few minutes left here, but can you just tell us a couple of stories of where it's really impacted someone's life? It's really made a difference, and you have seen some goals met and some things accomplished.
Oh, sure. Well, when I first started 12 years ago, we only had one individual who was on the Supports for Community Living waiver. Now we have 14, and then we have many on the Michelle P. waiver. All in all, between the Supports for Community Living waiver and Michelle P. waiver, we have over 60 individuals receiving services. So there's many stories we could tell. But one in particular, this gentleman lives at home and was really wanting his own place. Just wasn't quite ready as far as knowing how to cook and clean and pay bills and that type of thing. So we have been assisting with that, and then providing adult recreation opportunities. You know, when he first started, he just worked in our recycling department. Now he has a job out in the community. His CLS worker, which is the one-on-one, will pick him up at the center, take him out, and you know, they may go fishing. I've got a picture of him, you know, with 12, 14 catfish, big catfish.
Right.
You know, and then he learned to clean that, learned to cook the fish, and you know, and another day might be him learning to cook a meal, you know, that what he would do in his apartment when he got there. So there's just different things, and he just walks taller. You know, he walks with a strut now. I mean, he just feels very confident in himself, and you know, he may be listening to the radio now and say, oh, there's an AC/DC concert, you know, I want someone to take me. And he is very much more vocal about what he wants for his life now than before, when he didn't realize he had a lot of choices at the time. So we're working. I can't wait for him to get his own place, and you know, we don't want to put him in his own place right now until he's ready, but we're there to assist him, and he's getting closer and closer every day. So that's one success story, and Charity may know of.
Well, we have just come so far with, especially with the Michelle P. waiver, but so many individuals that were staying at home all day, sometimes by themselves, and no activities, no interaction with the community or the public, and just their parents really were the only ones that they saw. You know, after high school, their parents just really didn't know what to do with them at that point. And the Michelle P. waiver has really allowed those individuals to come into the center, start services, be around their friends, to go out in the community, to have jobs now. Like Marcie said, the Community Living Supports program allows them to have the one-on-one service, where if they want to, you know, go to the beauty shop and have their hair done, and that's their goal, is to be able to do that on their own, then, you know, we'll have someone work with them on that, and, you know, learn to pay their bills. And it's just so great to see so many people attending the center now that otherwise would not have been able to. So the waivers have really allowed more people to interact in the community.
Right, you can chart that impact, especially, I'm sure. And Michelle P.'s only been around for the last 5 years. I believe you said 2006. So you can certainly see the difference that has made in the community and within people's lives, I know.
Right.
So that's such a great thing.
One of the areas that I feel like there is a need for individuals, that when they are getting ready to graduate for school, they don't always know the services available, and the student, that's all they know is school for all these years. And you know, we would like to help families, you know, if they're, you know, 18 or, you know, close to 21 and they're ready to get out of school, of them having something to do. And we have gotten many phone calls of people going, I haven't done anything since school, or their, you know, their son or daughter hasn't, and, you know, they're in their 30s and, you know, bored, and, you know, the caregivers are getting older and needing some assistance themselves. So we would love to sit down and talk with people and families of their options. And
that's really a great point. And this information, of course, will be posted on the website, and as this will air, and they can contact you at, let's give those numbers where they can get in contact with you. And I know on the web, obviously, through Easter Seals West Kentucky, but let's give those telephone numbers where people can contact you.
Sure, it's 270-443-1200. And you can ask for Charity or Marcie or any of the staff. Just ask them you're inquiring about services, and they'll get you the right person to talk to.
Great, great. Well, is there anything left that you would just like to share with the audience here before we close? Just a few more words that you can think of that we might have forgotten? Not anything?
Well, I think what Marcie said about the students, we do get a lot of phone calls in May when parents, it's like, oh, they're graduated now and I don't have a plan. So what Marcie said is true. If we can start that process earlier in the school year, and then it'll be a smooth transition. There won't be, you know, a summer at home with nothing to do while you're waiting for the waiver. If we can get the parents to get involved early on, you know, maybe in January of their last year of high school, then we can start the application for the waiver, get the Medicaid process started. And then by the time they graduate, there won't be a gap in services. They'll just go straight from high school into attending, you know, a program, and that'll be a smoother transition. So that's what we're trying to educate parents on, is that it does take a little bit of time sometimes. So if you can start earlier, then you won't be left without a plan of what you're going to do with your child over the summer.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a great point, and hopefully we'll see that if parents have some seniors this year, as the school year comes to a close, and or even right after Christmas, they'll start thinking about that early January, and they'll have a plan as the school year comes to a close. All right, well, we appreciate all the information that you all have shared with us today, and again, we'll remind the audience to give you both a call if they have any more questions, that's exactly what you're there for, and we appreciate everything that you all do. And we thank you for being guests here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
All right, and we thank you for joining us here today on Easter Seals Today. And I'm Carol Gault. Thank you again.